Before we begin saving our options, I'd like to mention that I changed the name from Stop Background Translations to Stop Background Transitions, and I forgot to set the background image's render opacity to 1 in this function, so make sure you do that. So in our options, well, first we need to know we need to be able to save our options. So let's go to our content browser, right click, and create a new blueprint class. This is going to be a save game type. Select that. We'll call this persistent data. And if we go into persistent data, you'll notice that there are no start or begin play or tick functions. That's because it's just an object that can hold some variables that we can save. So let's create some new variables. This first one is going to be show unselectable options, and the second one being our text speed. And the text speed, of course, is a float. So compile and save this, and to get our persistent data when the game begins, we're going to need our game instance. So let's create a new blueprint class. We'll make this a game instance. Select that. We'll call this vn game instance. And in case you don't know, a game instance is a object. Well, at the very beginning of the game, when the game starts, it spawns a instance of our game instance, and that game instance is saved. It's used throughout the entire game. It can't ever change, and every object has really easy access to it. So it's great for storing variables that need to be saved across levels, and well, any variables that you need to have easy access to. In our game instance, you'll notice that we also don't have any begin, play, or tick functions. That's because it is just an object. But we do have 4 functions we can override. They're shutdown, init, travel error, and network error. We're going to choose init. This is going to be when the game starts. And we're going to ask, well, we're going to do a sequence. And then we're going to ask, does save game exist? And that save game is going to be persistent data. Also, before, here, let's just do a print string. We'll save this, and if we hit play, the hello actually starts because of an error with my previous take. But what you normally would do, the print wouldn't normally start. You'd have to go to your project settings, go to maps and modes, and make sure your game instance class over here is set to vn game instance. Mine was already set to that though because of, well, like I said, a previous take. And what is this error? Access none, trying to read game instance from add to viewport. What is this? Level blueprint. Okay, delete that. Anyways, game instance. Now that we set the game instance properly, we are going to branch on if the save game exists or not. Branch. And if it did not exist, then we have to create the game save game instance. So create save game object, that's the one, and we'll choose our persistent data, and we're going to promote this to a variable. This is going to be our persistent data because we are going to want to use this later, and then we can set our defaults here. So set show unselectable options. By default, we're going to say no, and then set text speed. By default, we're going to say 0.5 because this is going to be from 0 to this is going to be from 0 to 1 instead of our actual text speed in our dialog. And after we get our persistent data, let us do stuff with it. Well, if it did not exist, we create it. If it did exist, we have to get it. So load game from slot. That slot name has to be whatever you put over here, so copy this and paste it in there. And then we're going to promote that to the variable. So we're not promoted to variable, we're going to set our persistent data to be that. We have to cast it though, to cast to persistent data. And I'm just going to assume that this is a persistent data type. So I can just make this a pure cast. Now let's comment this, and we'll call this get persistent data, and move that out of the way. And if we do have a persistent data, then we have to tell our options what our data says about our options. But our options is a part of our game, sorry, not game instance, it's part of our menu over here. So let's create a menu so we can get our options. Create widget. This is going to be our menu. And let's promote this to a variable. We'll call this our menu widget. Our options also needs a dialog widget to modify, so let's do that in our game instance. We'll also create widget. This is going to be our dialog, and the menu is our menu, and our history widget is our menu's history widget. Make sure to get the W_history and not the history button, because that's not going to be compatible. Alright. Straighten that connection. And let's also tell our menu that we have a dialog widget now. So set dialog widget to be the dialog widget right here. That way we don't create another dialog widget when we hit start, or when we hit start over here. It would check to see if we have a dialog widget, and if it doesn't, we would create one, which we don't want to do. After that, we can probably, alright, let's promote this to a variable as well. This is going to be our dialog widget. I'm actually not sure if we need this, but we'll probably will. We probably will. And then we can get our options widget. So get our menu widget, and get our options. Make sure W_options and not the no other options button. Promote this to a variable. And this is going to be our options widget. Again, we need to make sure that our options widget sets the dialog widget. Otherwise, we're going to be modifying nothing, which would cause a huge error. Very unpleasant error that I had to deal with. Get dialog widget right there. And I think that should do it for telling everybody what everything is. If it isn't, I'm sure I'll just mess up again. Anyways, so let's tell our options widget to do stuff when we start the game. So let's make a new event, add custom event. I'm going to call this initialize saved options. And to make this easier, because you're probably going to want to add more options later on, like your sound volume and stuff like that, we're just going to make a variable. This is going to be our persistent data. Its type, of course, is persistent data. File save. And back in our game instance, before we call the initialize, that's not what that is. Saved options. Oh, this is our dialog widgets, that's why. Get our options and say initialize saved options. Before we do this, we need to tell it set the persistent data. And that is our persistent data right here. Straighten that connection, and like so. Compile, save, and in our initialize saved options, we're going to get our persistent data, and we're going to get the show unselectable options, and tell our show unselectable options checkbox to do stuff. Set checked states. That's what it is. And the check state is going to be based off the unselectable options, so let's do a select into the index, and if it's true, it will be checked. If it's not true, it will be unchecked. Something like that. Alright. And we'll do the same thing, of course, for our slider. So get our text slider, also get our persistent data, get text speed, set value right there, and like that. Compile, save, and if we hit play, nothing shows up because we need to add our menu to the screen, but we don't want to create a new menu like we used to because we want to use the menu that our game instance has. So we can get our game instance, get game instance, like that, and we need to cast to a VN game instance, otherwise it won't know that it has the menu. And we can convert this to pure cast because we set our game instance to be this type, and it cannot change in the middle of our game as far as I know, so this is always going to be our VN game instance. And as our VN game instance, we're going to get the menu, and with our menu we're going to just add to viewport. Compile, save, and don't save. And if you're wondering the reason why we're not doing this at init, it's because, well, you might want to have like a splash screen or stuff like that show up, and I'm also pretty sure that you can't actually put you can't add stuff to your viewport in event init. Okay, so we hit play and we go to our options. These are our options right now. This is from a previous attempt at my options, at this video I mean. That's why this is checked and stuff, but if we can play around with this, then we can quit and we hit play again and we show our options and it's still showing what it used to be. That's because we never actually saved our options. So back in our options, when we change the state of our checkbox, we're going to have to set the persistent data's set show unselectable options right there. Like so, and we're going to do the same thing for our text speed mouse capture end. So get our persistent data, set text speed to be, well, whatever this is right here. Make sure you don't choose the lerp value because that's going to give you the actual text speed and not the text speed we want to save. Compile, save, and then back in our game instance, we need to actually save this when the game shuts down. So functions override, shutdown, we're going to get our persistent data and save game to slot, and that slot being whatever you typed in here. Copy, paste, and plug that in. Compile, save, and now let's try this out. Go to our options, change these values, quit, play again, go to our options, and well, the show unselectable options is fine. The text speed, however, is not. What's going on there? Let's just do a print string. This is going to be our persistent data. Let me get my text speed. Let me see what this is right now. It's 1. Alright, so that's the right value. Initialize saved options. This is setting our text speed slider value. This is slider progress bar. On event construct, we are setting the on event construct we're setting the value of our progress bar based on our text speed slider. So let's also set our text speed sliders set percent sorry, not slider, based off the progress bar. So progress bar, set percent to be this right there. Compile, save, and play, and try that again. Go to our options, and there it is. Okay, so our text speed is at the right place. If we quit, and our options are the right thing. Let's make sure that it actually affected the games though. So if we hit start, and we go to the next line, and dang it, text speed is not right. Okay, this is the issue I had last take, and it was a horrible issue. Let me see what's wrong this time, because it might be something else. Let's add a breakpoint over. Where's my options? There it is. Let's add a breakpoint over here. We can right click, do add breakpoint, and this will automatically, well, breakpoint allows us to sort of stop the program and check our variables to see what's going on. So I'm going to hit play, and here we are. Let's go to the next one, step into the next node, set check state. Alright, so this is false, and this is, alright. Go to the next one, set value, text speed. This is fine. These things are being called properly. Let's go to our dialog. Check our dialog. Text speed right here. This is not fine. Okay. Stop. Okay, so when do we actually set our dialog's text speed? That would be over here. So let's add a breakpoint here actually. And press play. Sorry, get rid of this breakpoint. Delete. Press play. One more problems. Are you sure? Game instance. No. What is wrong with our game instance? Oh, did I delete that? Oh no, don't delete you. Undo this. Okay. I'm not sure what's wrong with me today. Alright, press play. And the breakpoint didn't happen because this never got called. Gotcha. Because this is on mouse capture end. I see. So let's not delete this and remove that breakpoint. We're just going to copy all this stuff and do it over here. And what is this error here? Target is our dialog widget right there. Hit play, go to start. Okay, now the text speed is what it's supposed to be. And if we go to our options, set it to be super slow. Quit, play again, start, and it's super slow. Great. I'm just going to make sure that our show unselectable options is also working, otherwise, well, I don't want to find out that it's not working later. Go to our content, test DLG, add an option right here, speak child. This option is going to have a condition that asks strong int call. We're going to ask if Ana's, strong bool variable, if her, let's see, isn't introduced. Ana's already introduced, so we want to compare to constant, and we want to see if this is false. So we shouldn't be able to go there. Hit play, hit start, hello, and it doesn't show up because our options say to not show up, so hit true, quit, press play, start, it didn't show up. Alright, so let's go to our options and do this stuff over here as well. We want to copy this stuff. Copy, paste, plug these into the right place, compile, save, and start. There it is. Okay. Okay, so now our options are saving properly. That was great. Alright, so this is working fine. Obviously, if you do some more options, you want to make sure you set all of those properly. You set up all of these properly when you create them, and make sure you never have different persistent datas, because you only want to use that one. I'm not sure if I mentioned it in this video because I've done so many takes already, but options like your screen resolution and stuff like that is automatically saved by Unreal, so you don't have to worry about that. And obviously you can save some more stuff in your persistent data other than just options, as you'll see later when we do our codecs. So I'll hopefully see you in the next video.